Welcome, everybody. We are back,
We are
and we
back.
are live on YouTube. Um,
Yes, we are tonight, aren't we?
yeah, this is kind of just we didn't plan on going live, so if anyone
No,
can
we're
on there,
just
great.
utilizing just utilizing the tools available, mate. I think is what
Yeah,
we're doing. It wasn't the plan. So, but definitely say good day. So I didn't even we haven't discussed what we're calling this one, mate. What are we calling? I mean, you this is there's a few pins, right? So we realize that we've got about 450,000 pins. So we're trying to knock over a few pins tonight.
yeah,
But it was your video that you sent through with Lloyd Pye. So, I mean,
mhm.
what are we going to call this one, or we'll figure it out later?
Yeah. Well, I had a makeshift. I mean, a makeshift shift name of human origins, but that's pretty.
Yeah, human origins. Yeah.
It's pretty basic. But I wanted to
Mm.
say before we get started, and this is just to my audience, but then I think it's good for your audience too. I've changed on my website, channeldownradio.com. I've changed our swapcast to being called Chant It Down UTC collaborations.
Okay.
And so what I did is I made a page on my series of show page. I made a slot and I put all of our collaborations in order.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So people can find them because I've been
Mm.
labeling them for years as Swapcast, but
Swapcast. Yeah.
I kind of don't really want to do that anymore because I feel like a Swapcast is something you do like once.
Mm.
We've done a lot of stuff together, so I'm just calling it Chant It Down UTC collaborations, and so I recommend anybody who wants to, go back and listen to a lot of the other shows we've done, which are good.
Mm.
I really recommend them.
Yes.
They can see them in the order in which we did them, so it's kind of cool.
Mm.
So.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be cool. That I might have to go and have a look.
yeah, you have a look too. Yeah, because
Because
it
what
kind
was
of
this, number
forgets.
8 or 9 or whatever?
Uh,
What are you up to now?
yeah, I think it's number 9. If we count the on
Yes.
the road one, I put the on the
Mm.
road one that we
Yeah, on the
did.
road, Steph. Well,
Yeah,
that honestly, man, that on the road one is one of my favorite podcasts I've done in the last little while.
same, same.
Just because I know what we were doing, and it was like, that was a very cool day. I had a lot of fun that day,
Mhm.
and yeah, it was very raw. Like when the fun tickets become available, I'm going to get a pair of those mics. You know what I mean? And because you can attach that to that little camera as well, eh? Like that's what they attach to that.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
there's better
yeah.
ones to buy than what I had. I got a
Mm,
cheap pair, but I think
mm.
these DJI ones are probably the better ones to get. But we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
there.
yeah.
The fun tickets
Yeah,
still have to
absolutely.
come,
That's right.
and they're not always passing out fun tickets, so we gotta.
No, that's right, mate.
But
But no, look,
a lot of the things we talked about on the road thing are actually going to come up in this show now that I think about it.
yes, yes,
So
they
it's
will
kind of
actually. We
that was
did
the
brush up
raw
on some
version,
stuff.
and now we're
Yeah.
giving a more refined version right here because we're
Mm,
not on the
mm.
fly. We're not so impromptu.
Yeah, so we're basing tonight's show on Lloyd Pye's video. Everything you know is wrong.
Correct.
As well, I fell down a number of different rabbit holes with this one, and so I had to pull myself back out a little bit because it's like, which way do you go? I did. Unfortunately, Lloyd's not with us anymore. He died in 2013, age 67, so a little bit early. However,
Answer.
it would have been cool. Yeah, yeah. So may he rest in peace. He had some very very fascinating ideas.
Definitely.
I wanted to start because obviously he starts talking about the hominids and about we talk about origins. It's like we're talking about human origins. Where do we actually come from? How did we get here? How did that happen? And as Lloyd said, everything we know is wrong.
Right.
Well, not to us. However, it was interesting. What I find fascinating about watching these documentaries that go back into the 90s or the very early 2000s is that because we're along the rabbit hole and this is sort of stuff we keep an eye on, it's fascinating to go, okay, this is what it was like in 99. You know what I mean? It's like they
Yeah.
had X amount of stuff that they were doing in 99. But like I made a heap of notes. It's like, oh, well, we actually know more about that now. You know what I mean? We know more about mitochondrial DNA. We know more about all that sort of stuff
True.
than
True.
when he spoke about it. But yeah, I wanted to, I mean, I realize if we're going to start talking about hominids, I think like what you say, number 9 swapcast, have we discussed Yowies or the abominable snowman or Bigfoot, or we ever
No,
discussed that, me and you? Yeah.
no, I don't feel like we have, not at all. Like
Mm,
maybe just grazed on it, but we didn't
mm.
go there.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that, mate? I mean, obviously, we're going
Well,
to have a
let,
discussion about.
let me just say something first for the audience. I thought I would think of this, just give a disclaimer, not even a disclaimer, but
Mm,
this information we're given today, this is a no-go zone for anyone attached to a belief system. I mean, because people attached to Darwin's religion are going to be offended, even though
mm.
he's a 33rd degree Freemason, which that's something to think about. And the Abraham religions are going to be offended. So we're going kind of like in the third road, and we're not excluding God or the Most High. God is part of this picture too, if you like, but we're looking at a larger timeline than the Bible,
Mm,
and people
mm.
may want to suspend their belief systems, and we're looking at the real roots of all of the ancient texts. So both Darwin and the Bible, I think, are built off mediocre explanations, and that's honestly, when taken apart, they don't explain our anomalies. So I would say about 95% of the world or higher won't go where we're going to go. So
Yeah,
it,
well,
it's
they
important.
probably won't. But I mean, as we come across again, right?
Yeah,
Everything is built on beds of sand, mate. If you
yeah,
actually, there's this separation that I think we're both aware of that does happen, but doesn't actually truly exist. Where just because you're you and I'm me doesn't mean we can't read these academic papers with some understanding and make our own decisions about them, right? You can't. You can. This is a beautiful thing about the modern world. We can look this stuff up. We can read it. I've read Darwin. I've read, and it's like he really barely left Madagascar, right? He did, and as you say, Mason, take your pick, right? And if you dig into that story, that won out over a number of theories, and it won out because he was a gentleman who was well known to the aristocrats. You know what I'm trying to say?
those
The
guys, those
the
guys. Yeah,
aristocrats, right?
yeah,
The
right.
aristocrats. He was well known to those guys in the universities and the colleges over there, and that's how that actually got in, and that became part of the thing that we've been going on about for a while. That is actually completely designed to make us think in a certain manner and form. However, ancient cultures, indigenous cultures, talk about yowies, Bigfoots, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different names for these creatures that exist outside of us, right? And I think, I want to. So where do you stand? Where do you stand on Bigfoot, I suppose, or Yowies, as I would understand it down under? Because I've had a changed perception over the last few years on this very topic.
I've always wanted to believe, and I do
Mm,
believe. I have family on the mainland US who have seen footprints, and one of my distant family members had their tent shaken by one
mm,
um, when they were camping. Let's see, I may have told this story to you before, but maybe I haven't. But it's a real short story. My wife and I were staying in an Airbnb. It was like a decked out trailer, it was like
mm,
kind of
mm,
vintage and stuff. So you don't usually meet the hosts, but we met them. They were an older couple in the morning, and the guy was saying to me, he goes, "Yeah." And this is in the state of Oregon where there's a lot of
mm,
forest and stuff.
mm,
And he goes, "Yeah, oh yeah, when we put this house here, Sasquatch was upset and they kept banging on the house all the time." Now this guy's just talking about it like it's a matter of fact, like it's no big
mm,
deal, like it's just part of everyday life. And he
mm,
said another one, they were territorial and they were yelling at each other from across the river. I was like, wow, and I don't really feel like this guy was trying to like pull our leg. I think he was just genuinely talking because they lived in the middle of nowhere and that's just what
mm,
they experienced. So
mm.
I totally believe in it. And I think one of the most important things one of my takeaways from the book of everything is wrong, that I thought about briefly but never really put it together in these words, is that man has not foot surveyed the world. Like,
Not at all.
not at
Not
all.
at
We,
all.
we
Not
think
at,
we
not even
know,
not even close.
not
Not even
even
close.
close. There's so
Not
much
even
wild.
close.
And who sees Bigfoot or Sasquatch or all these different names?
Mm,
Hunters who go way off course, or hikers who might get lost, but most people stay on trails. So the thing
that's
is
right.
we don't go where they go, especially if they're nocturnal too.
No, that's right. We don't. And then, and our countries are so large. I mean, even Hawaii, you've been on missions in Hawaii over the last 6, 12 months. If Sacred Site's still on Rumble at the moment, mate, is that correct? We're just
It
looking
is,
at
yeah.
theatrical version is still on Rumble. Please give that a watch and listen. Things are moving there. We get months of work for that though. So you've been on missions in Hawaii, two tiny little islands in the middle of the Pacific. I wonder how long it's been since people have walked where you've walked in the last year.
Right. Like maybe,
you know what I mean? Just to put that into perspective, right? Do you know what I mean? Like tiny little islands, middle of the Pacific. You and the boys have walked all through those islands. How long since someone actually, because you cut your own tracks. So it's like, I mean, and Australia is the same. There is no way, right?
And Australia is way bigger. There's so much.
Way bigger.
So vast.
When we went down to the dam, where the dam is and all those, that big tree line, it's like no one's walked all that.
No way.
And the thing is that dam was built on an indigenous site. There's a cave that's underwater now. That's when they filled it in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that just shows that like man has not foot surveyed the world.
Not
we don't go where we think we know the whole world and we've got it all mapped out. We really don't. Like maybe from the air. We've
overflown things, but have we LiDAR scanned everywhere? No. Have we? Yeah, and look, as me and you can attest, using drones, doing exploring and field work, if you get up above the canopy, you can't see anything anyway. In a lot of, especially in Australia, like if you get above the gum trees, you're not seeing anything anyway. It's the same in a lot of these densely forested places, like Oregon, like all these other places, right? And I think, one of the things I took away from the Lloyd Pye thing, which was interesting, is that it's like, you don't know why we caught one, if that's the case. It took us 60 years to catch one panda.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like we're that good, but it took 60 years to find one panda across two centuries. Right? They had 5 goes at it, spent years of time trying to find one panda, and then they eventually found 2.
Exactly. And think about this. They don't want us to find the Sasquatch.
No. And the
powers
thing
that
is,
shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, true, but I wonder. I wonder. I also wonder what these beings actually are, mate, as well. Sometimes, right? Depending on what and who and where we're talking. Because look, and it's actually the question I had for you, just while we're talking, because I want to talk in a bit more detail about pre-human stuff. However, where do you sit on the Patterson footage?
Oh, I'm pretty convinced, especially after watching this, after watching everything is wrong. You can't really debunk the fact that if the person was in a suit and the tracks they left, the person would have had to weigh 600 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilos. And the arm was too long and there was, muscle movement and I don't think you can duplicate that. So I'm pretty certain that that's actually a real one. And of course they want to debunk it, but sometimes you got to look past when people say something has been debunked too.
And the thing about the Patterson footage is it's been pretty thoroughly debunked. Like the guy bought a thing and a camera and a suit, and like there's a lot that goes into the debunking of the Patterson footage. However, one of the fellow coders, he's in. He believes it, and it's like, well, he's a very critical. You know what I mean? It's like there's a guy there I trusted the opinion of. It's like, but I find it's fascinating like that because it's been so thoroughly debunked over so many years. It shows that I'm still susceptible because I automatically go, you know what I mean?
Whereas, so is that your opinion of it? Maybe that you don't know, or you're still kind of on the fence, or.
There's some interesting stuff, right? So it's like I always want to believe, right? I have whimsy, I have hope. I am just, I'm just a big kid who wants to believe that everything is real. So, but as I've done this show and as things have progressed, I need evidence, right? And with the Yowie thing, the Bigfoot thing, I sort of took it all with a grain of salt, right? I didn't really. That'd be really cool, and then I had. I think it's called, if you in the back catalogs, I think it's called a primal experience, I think is what we called it. And it's two of the boys. So, Daniel and Brian
Mm-hmm.
came in and shared their Yowie experiences. And they'd been out in the Lamington National Park, and they had some really trippy experiences. And I was watching those boys tell their story, and I saw the fear in their eyes. I saw them. I knew that they believed what they said. You know what I mean? Like I could feel it in the room. That the tension was palpable in the room when they were talking about what happened to them and the experiences they'd had. And I was like, that really shifted my perception, because these are two guys that I respect, and it's like, this is what happened,
Right.
and I'm just telling you what happened. And then after that, I thought, well, I wonder what people's perceptions on Yowies are just in general. And me being me, I think I posted on Facebook, I've mastered saying weird stuff, so I can wind weird questions into conversations, you know what I mean? So I just asked general people, right? What do you think about Yowies or anything else like that? And if you ask people one-on-one, I believe, right? But one of the most interesting things that was told to me was by an old ranger, right? He used to move the cattle across the multitudes of thousands of kilometers, right? So basically they drove 5,000, 10,000 cattle from North Queensland into South Queensland to be sold, like just massive herds of cattle.
Okay.
And they're on horses for like 4 weeks, all throughout the middle of nowhere, like, the actual middle of nowhere, like 1,000 miles from anywhere in any direction. And they used to come down, and like it was a straight shot, right? But this straight shot involved going through this bit of bushland, this forest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the cattle, the horses, and everybody would go around it. And I'm like, why? He goes, oh, the Yowies live there. I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, no one goes in there. And this is like a dried in the wool Aussie cowboy hat that's worn, cigarette, like cowboy, Aussie cowboy.
He's not messing around with bullshit.
No, he's not messing around with. No, exactly right. He would not say something that is not. And he goes, no, we just never. No one would ever go in there, and no animal would ever go in there, because that's their territory. That's where they live. The Yowies live there. And he's like, yeah, for you, we saw him on the tree line, and he'd say like, oh yeah, we used to see him on the tree line every now and again, and they'd spook the horses. But he goes, oh, you just make a big enough fire, and they leave you alone. And the thing is, time is money, right? Straight through the bush one day. They would go 5 days around this bushland, and then that was the path. You just go around.
So the animals knew something. That animals, our instincts are way better than us humans, and
absolutely. And
that actually goes right into what we're talking about too in a little while.
Yeah. The animals see things we don't see. So look, I actually went to, because we call Mr. Mengel. He's Daniel that I do the Cost of Awareness series with. He's the Yowie Whisperer, and I went to go out one weekend to go and have a see what I could see, and didn't work out. Actually, the gates were locked, right? Because we can't talk about the fight clubs tonight. We're not doing that. However, they're locking the gates of all the national parks down here as well. But yeah, that's neither here nor there.
Is that recent? Just
yeah, over the last few years, yeah. Well, because for your safety, Loomis. It's for your safety, man.
I feel really safe now. Thank you.
But so I haven't had a personal Yowie experience. However, I'm willing to believe, and then hearing you say you buy the Patterson footage, hearing a couple of boys say they buy it and Lloyd Pye buys it, I'm like, okay. It's quite fascinating stuff. All right. Well, that being said, let's jump into what is a pre-human, mate? How many millions of years ago are we willing to safely say, or that science says? I've got a few aberrations apart from that, but what does science? Science says like 2.5 million or something like, isn't it?
Yeah.
What are we saying?
Yeah, something like that. And okay, so it starts to go
3.5 million footprints is what I've got here. Right?
Okay.
And Laetoli tracks, solidified ash, volcano ash. Right. 3.5 million. I know that out in the Mediterranean, and this was only recent, last year, maybe year before, they found footprints they reckon were 5 million years old that were hominid, 5-toed footprints.
So
right?
hominids, yeah,
Mm. And I think this is the key here. Hominids is what we're talking about, right? We're
right.
not talking about humans yet. We're talking
No,
about hominids. We're talking about upward walking hominid creatures.
yeah,
And it's like, I think, something that probably needs to be said too is that obviously each turn of the spade can change history, right? However, fossils are an amazing, amazing, amazing thing.
they don't just happen. There's
They
special
don't, yeah,
conditions. Yeah,
yeah. Like to the fact that we find any fossils or the fact that we find anything like that is a miracle in itself, right? It's like, if you talk about the Laetoli tracks, so people ran through ash or walked through ash. Ash then came over the top again, which sealed them, and then it rained, and then it dried, and then it all got washed away one day. And someone happened to be walking through the bush that day, along the river that day, when the water was down, and saw these footprints. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like the timing that needs to take place for these things to even be contemplated to be found is fascinating. It's and just we don't know. Everything is wrong, right? You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's
Well, we're told that 2 million years ago there was a switch from Australopithecus, which is
mm,
the former um, pre-human, or what
mhm.
to
Australopithecus, yeah, yeah,
Homo. Overnight change, like an overnight
yeah,
change.
immediately,
And,
yeah.
and so, first of all, the change is too quick to even accommodate Darwin's theory.
No, it
And,
can't. It happened. Yeah, it happens immediately.
and
But
my
it's
question is always been, why isn't there transitional species in nature still? Like
mm,
where are the where's the macro evolution? Like the
mhm,
micro
mhm,
evolution is, I believe in micro evolution. I can
mm,
see it here in Hawaii, where certain birds are only found here had developed a beak to get down to the nectar of a flower. This is
mhm,
called Hawaiian honey creepers. They have a beak that's shaped like that,
mhm.
and
And it's
it's the
specifically
only one
designed to
that
get
can
the
fit
yeah.
exactly in that flower.
Mm,
So they developed it just to live here with that certain flower. But
mm,
the big transitional things, like fish, turning into amoeba turning into fish, or
mm,
those kind of big jumps, they're
mm.
not in the fossil record.
No, no, they aren't. And someone might point out that they reckon that monkeys and apes have entered the Stone Age because they've been started using tools and stuff like that. However, there's also another theory. It's like they've taped monkeys and stuff using sticks as tools and stuff like that. But then the question is, monkeys aren't stupid. Are they watching the human with the big boom? You know what I
Right.
mean? Are
Yeah.
they watching what the humans do and they're just copying? It's not evolution. It's just that these documentarians spend a lot of time with these monkeys using microphone booms and God only knows what else, right?
Right.
They're just imitating what they do. I mean, there's fascinating stuff. They call that morphic resonance, where
All right. Yep.
the coconuts, right? There was the monkeys and the coconuts. I'm pretty sure it's like on one island they figured out how to wash the coconuts, and on another island 60 k's away the monkeys started washing coconuts, right? So it's like, but that's not evolution. That's morphic resonance, which is an entirely different thing. Like
Right.
we haven't actually observed evolution of species. Like as you say, it's not something that you can find or see. And this is the thing: you actually start digging into Darwin's theory of evolution. You start digging into what makes a human, what makes us conscious, what our bones are made out of, our muscle, our DNA. It's not from around here. It,
No,
it's not.
it
You
doesn't. It
know.
doesn't match. And why would evolution just stop? Like,
Mm,
wouldn't we still see? I don't know. Like, what if, I don't know. I always think of, like, with bears, when they're grabbing salmon.
mm.
Would salmon have developed a defense against bears after all these years, or
You would think so. I would.
gazelles, lions? Trying to hunt gazelles, maybe they would have developed some kind of I don't know, a poison or a, over time to get back at the lions, but no, so we're not seeing any changes in any of that, even in a really long period of time.
But what's interesting is we do see evidence of hominids that have been built to survive this planet.
Yes.
Right. We got the Neanderthals. We got the Denisovans. You got the little people in Indonesia, right? Mm-hmm. All of their skulls, bigger brows, round eyes, skull strength, jaws out. They don't have the ability to do what we're doing now, which is speak. Right. And it doesn't matter how many words you teach a monkey, it's not going to be able to talk back. It just doesn't have the gear that needs to happen in order to do that, right? Yeah. And the arms are the thing too, right? Because that's,
that's
if you
another one,
that's another one, right? It's like, so our arms are equidistant, right? Human arms are wholly different. What you look at a monkey's arm, look at a gorilla's arm, look at a chimpanzee, they're long. Why are they long? Because they swing through the trees. They are adapted to their environment, and humans are not, right? Yep. We should, if we had actually truly evolved on this planet, we'd be able to swim better.
Oh yeah, with an Earth with 2/3 water, we would be able to swim underwater and probably have gills or something.
That's right. We'd be able to swim better. We'd be able to deal with the sun better. We'd be able to see better, right? I mean, and this is the thing: as much as the human is an amazing biological machine, it's not a perfect design, right? And I think, we need to understand that, the Neanderthals and the pre-humans, the Australopithecus and some of these skulls that they've found, and some of these, they've found pretty much a full skeleton as well. Their arms are longer, their bones are thicker, their brows are thicker. Talking about a lion, that could have taken on a lion, right? You can headbutt a lion with a skull that's 1/2 inch thick, whereas we don't have that.
Our bones, right? Why would our bones grow less thick in a place on a planet with so much hostility of species attacking each other? Wouldn't we, like, these pre-humans were they were kings of their universe, of their jungles and forests. Mm-hmm. They could maybe take on a lion. I mean, they could survive everywhere, and their strength and durability, they were kings in their environment. Basically, they were masters of their universe. Like, why would it devolve? What for? Like, they still, like, monkeys are still, I mean, maybe they can't always take on a lion, but like
100 of them can.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
They work in packs.
And they work in packs. They work together. They communicate. It's been proven that most ape species communicate through clicks and whistles and grunts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they give warning, right? They're in tune. There's and as you say, overnight, Homo sapiens sapien exists, which it just doesn't make sense, And the thing is, so Homo sapien, or the Homo series, it just turns up. Now we obviously mated with Neanderthals. We either outfought them or outbred them. I'm not too sure which one. However, or maybe a bit of both, right? But is the Neanderthal? I wonder whether the Neanderthal is the natural evolution of the hominid on this planet. I thought about that listening to this documentary.
Right. I think that's pretty good, because there's the last Neanderthal fossil, I'm reading my notes here, is 30,000 years old. Mm-hmm. And there's an overlap of humans 120 years ago, of humans living next to Neanderthals. Mm-hmm. So how would that happen? So that would mean that if that was the case with them back then we would also see that now with other species, and we're not seeing any overlap or transitional species.
No, it's one of those. I mean, it's a question of timelines too, right? Because I mean, if you follow the Indigenous Australian stuff, which I've got some things I could show you. Actually, hang on. Before I've got a share screen that I want to get rid of. Now, this is. I can share screen, can't I?
Yep. Can you? Or do I need to? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Good.
So I went looking for Lloyd Pye's book, right? So
Mhm.
I just need to put this in. So I'll share my search list for that day, right? So Thermomix hot chocolate, good hot chocolates, right? I need to fix the mower, had to go to Woolworths, and here we go, right? CCs in how many CCs are in the Paracas skulls? We're going to come back to that, right? That's for this research, right? So you can see in the middle there is where I'm researching some of the stuff.
Let's see.
Bunnings, it's hardware, Soul Cauldron, Book Merchant, Rare Books. This is me trying to find Everything You Know Is Wrong by Lloyd Pye, right?
Uh-huh.
And between Soul Cauldron and Bunnings Ipswich, there should be 4 or 5 searches. Everything You Know Is Wrong, Lloyd Pye this, Lloyd Pye that. And there's not.
Oh, wow.
And I just wanted to share that with you because I went, hang on a minute. Yeah, so between the Soul Cauldron and Bunnings Ipswich, there should be 4 or 5 searches about that have Lloyd Pye in it. And there's not. And
Interesting.
same phone, same screen, all the rest of it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
good, man. I
I
just
know
wanted to
this is
share
a
that.
little no,
Just
this is a little off subject, but no, it's I was going to share this on a future live stream we're going to do, but I'll share it here too, and it doesn't matter. I did a couple of interviews lately, and we're talking about pyramids. People are like telling me about new sites, and I go to comment, and I've written good comments, and they got erased.
really.
Yeah, and the person that was telling me about a site that I want to know about, they got completely deleted from the entire comments. And I'm like, this stuff seems pretty benign to me compared to like us talking
Yeah,
about something.
but AIs are working for them now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I think it's not a human. It's a bot that's doing that stuff. They're picking up keywords.
I guess so. But it just doesn't seem like we're talking about like stuff that people normally get censored for,
I know
So
it's weird. It's very
it's weird,
strange. It's
weird.
very
But
strange because I
I thought,
wanted the book anyway. I just thought I wanted to get rid of that share screen
yeah,
because it's like, and it just lends more evidence that they don't want us to try and look at this stuff. You know what I mean? They don't want us to even get in and look at it. It's fascinating.
Well, you just said a little bit ago that when you take a look at this kind of stuff, like a lot of the stuff we looked at with the megalithic sites, it's all built on a bed of sand. They
Mm,
expect most people to just accept it because
it's
it's
what they
been
say.
told in
Yeah.
schools. You do
Hmm.
what we say. This is official. The
Hmm.
best culmination of all the world's knowledge is in universities. How would you dare question?
Mm,
So I'm thinking that most people won't. So they rely on that. But then there's a few of us that will, and that
mm.
really look at this and you go, well, wait a minute. This is built on a bed of sand.
Yeah, it's not. There's not much to it, right?
No.
You're extrapolating stuff where it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And the entirety of evidence, the fossil evidence and the fossil record of pre-human or pre-hominid, pre-human, pre-homo is what we'll say,
Yeah.
um, is it's millions of years old, right? There's been upward walking hominids on this planet for a very long time. Their bone structure is very different to ours, right? If you got head butted by a Neanderthal, you are going to die because
Yeah.
their skull and their brow and everything is 3 or 4 or 5 times as thick. I can't remember the exact numbers.
Right.
However, you're going to be in trouble, right? That's going to be an issue. And they're not us. They're
No.
not even close to us, right? Obviously, there's a shared DNA because if I'm pretty sure I know a few blokes that have got Neanderthal in them.
Me too.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. But we all, not all of us, but some of us have a percentage of Neanderthal in us because of the commingling of 2 separate species did happen, as you said, between 120 and 30,000 years ago. The caves of the Denisovans, don't forget that in the Denisovans cave, and again, let's not think about maybe Denisovans and Neanderthals as advanced apes. I don't think they were, right? They do believe that the Neanderthals could communicate. Now they've got better skulls. They do believe, well, they followed burial, right? They actually buried their dead. You know, they've found enough graves of Neanderthals and Denisovans they honored and buried their dead. So there's an understanding of life and death and the cycle of time. And don't forget, in the Denisovan caves, they found beads. I think it was onyx beads with holes drilled straight through them. No one likes to talk about that. Little out of place artifact that they found in the cave of the Denisovans.
Interesting.
Now, you can't drill straight through. Drilling through onyx is very difficult, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, it's a pinhole drill as well. And yeah, they had a necklace or like a bracelet that had beads that had holes drilled straight through it. And these beads, from memory, like centimeter and a half, maybe not even an inch, you know what I mean? Half an inch maybe.
Yeah.
So not big. However, again, I think because we've been given a picture, Neanderthal was a caveman in a loincloth with a big bat, you know what I mean? Like, that's maybe not what they were.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
they
weren't their
were.
brains larger than ours? I think their brains
Yes.
were, yeah.
Yeah, they had a 1,500 cc brain capacity where the average human is 1,400 cc.
Yeah.
And the Paracas skulls, just because we had that up, I was talking about the Paracas skulls.
Yeah.
And just for those that are watching us on the video here,
One
here's
person.
some of the one person. Oh, thank you, mate. Whoever
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
That is
Oh yeah.
that is the Paracas skulls. This is part of a documentary we could talk about. However, again, if you follow Brian Forrester, he's been saying over the last 6 or 12 months that especially this one, the one with the hair, is no longer on display. It's been taken off display. And so have a number of the undeniably not headbound ones. Like they're actually Paracas skulls.
Yeah.
And if you Google how many cc's the Paracas skulls were, it is AI debunking it for you. It's all head binding. Don't worry about it. But maybe if they have different CC, it's because of the head binding, not because of anything else. They debunk it straight away.
Wow.
And the AI does that for you now.
Yeah.
That little AI overview. And yeah, so if you start digging, the Paracas were bigger again, 1,600 cc, 1,600, right? Bigger than human. Now, take that with a grain of salt as well. It's like, what are we actually talking about here? If you truly start looking at the evidence of what is actually going on, I mean, how many species, right?
Well, so I had Forrester on my show about 3 years ago, maybe it was. And one thing that he mentioned is that they carbon dated the skulls, and they didn't go back as far as you would think. The ones they carbon dated were around 2,000 years ago. So that's like Jesus time. They were walking amongst us. For how long, I don't know. But like there's also the DNA they found was most closely related to the Caspian Sea. So was it the Black Sea? It's the Black Sea. The Black Sea. So that part of the world, and they all had red hair and stuff. But that's another rabbit hole. But like just to know.
Well, I just realized I had the note here, right? So the note on that slide was DNA testing was done on some of the remains and skulls in 2015. Yep. It was found the mitochondrial DNA from the mother presented mutations, suggesting we are dealing with a completely new human-like being, very distant from Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, or Denisovans. So that would have been the note that I made out of all my research when I put that together.
Cool.
And it's separate again, right? So we're dealing with another hominid on this planet. So how many A have existed on this planet, or B, are we still sharing the planet with, is an interesting question.
Right. You can throw giants in there too, and all the yes. giant bones that were hidden by the Smithsonian, purposely covered up. Here in Hawaii, we have the Ali'i, which were the royals. In the ancient day, they hid their bones from the commoners. They didn't want the commoners to get their bones. I find that very interesting. So I think there's been a cover up in our more recent day that it goes into this, because I think we were sharing the planet openly with different types of beings here not that long ago, like maybe 2,000 to 3,000 years ago.
Again, I think timelines. Look, the reality is, yet again, mate, we don't know. However,
No.
if you start collating the evidence, putting the jigsaw pieces of the code together and trying to look at it, it's like, what is actual history? What is our real, true history? We have the history of a couple of different civilizations that existed because we found it. But even then, I made a bit of a note later. Those cylinder seals, there's thousands and thousands of those cylinder seals, let alone the tablets from Sumeria, which there's also thousands of.
Yeah.
Like no one has walked this planet, no one has read all those seals.
No.
No one knows what all those seals say. No one knows what all those tablets say. No one knows. We don't know. And the stuff that's in the university that they're allowed to study, what's under the Smithsonian? What's under the museum in Britain? What's under the Vatican? Right?
Yeah. Right.
It's
and ISIS was destroying Sumerian relics
they were.
And so was the U.S. military stealing relics.
Yeah, they were collecting stuff. Yeah.
So what's that all about?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a rabbit hole separately, maybe, but still, it's the cover up, and the cover up's real. And I talk about it in the documentary.
You're another guy as well, aren't you? You were the third dot point. Knew a bloke who knows a bloke that was guarding the thing, or they had something to do with the
right.
Them rating that, because I know a few guys that you were like the third point of reference where you said it to me independently, and I've heard two other people say, no, I know people that stood guard while they ransacked the museums over there.
Yep. So it really did happen.
Twice. Desert Storm and Desert Storm to Iraq 2 or whatever.
Right. And I mean, the thing I keep getting from multiple sources too is they were looking for Gilgamesh's tomb. Which is interesting because he was a giant, and I don't know. There was, I mean, that's even there was mention of a Stargate, and I know that's pretty way out there to talk about on this, but I mean, I'm open to it. I'd like to know more about it, but it's crazy to think that that really did happen. But so if we move along a little bit, let's say we talk about. So we're looking at the inconsistencies of the overlaps that don't make sense. Pre-humans, the way they're described, are exactly like Bigfoot, Yowie, Sasquatch. They match the description, and to think that these things just died out, why would they if they were king of their universe? Why would they if they were able to survive and adapt so well and live in these places? Like what would make them go extinct? The reason we don't see them is, like we talked about, is that they live where we don't, and they are most likely nocturnal as well.
And I think a good spot's a good spot, and humans are pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And we probably fought them. We probably, and that's, again, every indigenous culture has a name for these beings. It's not like we're just using the common nomenclature that's known around the planet, but there's every indigenous culture, especially ones that live in jungles and bushland, have a word for these things. Now, they like to say, because of Australopithecus, was it an echo? Did they exist side by side at some point, and that's the reason? Or, and these some of these, but then you've got to push the indigenous cultures age out as well, don't you? Right? We've got to start messing with the timeline. The timeline seems to be either stretching or contracting, you know what I mean, in a number of different places. It's like, well, hang on a minute, where is it actually? Where are we in the timeline? What are we actually talking about with the timeline?
Right.
Did they coexist? And that's why we have record of it. But if we fought them and they can exist in a dense forest or jungle, then they would just leave us alone. If they have, well, there's that. I didn't actually, one of the rabbit holes I didn't get down, but I did take some notes on, was apparently that they adopted one in Russia, in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Zana.
Right.
Zana was her name. And she was alive in the tribe from 1850 to 1890.
Yeah.
Now, I want to come back to that. I wanted to do more research on that, but apparently she'd fetch wood, she'd fetch water. She lived with them for 40 years. and
Yeah.
she had bore 4 children.
Yeah.
And
And
apparently those children were existing up until the 1960s. Like,
well,
what?
one of the locals, nasty as must have been drunk, had a really, I don't know, lonely, whatever. He decided to, mate with her, and the somehow in the story anyway, they had offspring, so they're compatible with humans apparently.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
mean,
think they're based off it, right? And this is the thing. I mean, you know, not transition, transformation. So if you go, let's forget about timelines right now. But if you go the indigenous story down here, the story is the story, mate. The 7 sisters of the Pleiades got chased across the stars by the 3 brothers of Orion, 2 here.
uh-oh, maybe you're frozen. One moment, guys. Let me see if I can add back. Uh-oh. Triffin, we lost you.
I'm back.
Okay, we lost you for a minute there. Well, so the 7 sisters of Pleiades and the 3 brothers of Orion. I think that's where you froze.
So the 7 sisters of the Pleiades chased the 3 brothers of Orion across the stars to Earth. They couldn't exist in our atmosphere. They modified the existing hominid that was on this planet to create humans.
Right.
That's the indigenous creation story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And the curious thing about that is if you start digging into that, there's more evidence of that being true than a lot of things, right, that are commonly believed.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And the thing is we do share commonality with these pre-humans. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
and so that's why it's so easy to believe Darwin's theories, because we do share these commonalities. And if that story is true in Russia, where they had offspring together, I mean, the guy must have been drunk off his ass or something, wanted to curl up and get warm with one of them. But hey, it's pretty cold there, I guess, whatever.
Look,
But
things happen, mate.
I've
Things
heard of
happen on a dark
farmers and their
night.
sheep too. So hey, I mean, not my cup of tea, but okay. So they did, and they had offspring. And so does the story go on? I think it does, to where she had a son, and
Yeah,
he
she bore 4 children. 2 of them made it to maturity, and I think because the thing this is out of the Russian stuff when it all got released in the 90s, right? So it's like they released all these documents. This was all part of that, and the reason they could interview people in the 1960s is because in that area of Kazakhstan where they lived probably closer to how we're supposed to live, they lived to be 120, 130. So there was actually people that they could interview that lived with Xana. They knew her well, right? She was docile. She was included. She was part of the tribe. She was useful. She would eat and do all the above, right? And it's I think when I saw that, it's like there's also we're so indoctrinated into our existence, right? Russia is a completely different country. China is a completely different country. A lot of these countries have their own histories and have their own stories, and they don't have the preconceived ideas that we have about these things. You know what I mean? Like the narrative that is twisted through a lot of the stuff and a lot of the research we do is that there is a narrative that is winding through that hits us at every turn, saying that what we're saying isn't true. Yet, as we say all the time, do your own research, right? It's not, it's
yeah. So the thing is they tried. I think they dug up the skull of the
of the sun.
right? And it's a little fuzzy to me. I kind of didn't write that in any notes, but if and basically the bones were different, and that's what
Yeah,
they came.
bones. It was thicker. The brow was thicker. It
Yeah,
had hallmarks of these pre-hominid or these pre-human
yeah,
creatures, right? And again, I thought and just to say it again, like no one thought pandas existed till someone went and saw one hanging on a wall, and then it took humans 60 years, and this was 60 years when we spent every day hunting. This wasn't 60 years now where we're on our smartphones. This is 60 years when you had to go and hunt for your own food. So they were
yeah.
on the land and in the land the whole time, and it took them 60 years to find a wild panda. So it's like, if these things are as tricky as everyone says they are, and they've existed on this planet for 2 million years, would they know how to avoid the loud, smelly, weird looking things that are angry? Yeah, I'd say they probably can. Yeah, like I don't think that would be an issue.
Well, I mean, you've been hunting. I have too.
Hmm.
Animals hide well in their environment.
Absolutely.
Panda bears aren't very smart animals,
No.
but these things probably are nearly as smart as humans in their own way. Maybe not. They're more animalistic. They're more instinctive, but they
Mm,
know how to survive very well, and they can blend in their surroundings. I bet you really
mhm.
well because people
Really
smell
well.
them. They have a
Yeah.
smell to them, right? And
Mm.
um, I've
Well,
heard
so
that a
do
lot.
we. This is the other thing we don't understand. So do we,
Yeah,
right?
so do we. We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
Even
S-
between races, we have smells. You talk about wartime and stuff like that. Like they can smell a race of people. That's what it gets down to. That, you know what I mean?
That is true. That is true.
Mm.
I mean, maybe that's so we could. Well, I'd almost want to put a pin in the races of the world. I know that
Yes,
that's a
very much
really
so. Yes.
touchy subject, but maybe we'll get there in this talk just because there is some stark differences between just the human races, even, that should be looked at a little more than just, oh,
Hmm.
because of the pigment of the sun. I think there's
Mm.
something
Yeah,
there.
there's fives. Then I look. Again, I love everybody. Peace
Me
and love
too.
to all everybody. Unless you're a dick, then that's not my problem, right? Doesn't matter where you're from, right?
That's another breed of human.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we try not to swear, but a fuckwit's a fuckwit, mate. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Ah, yeah.
It doesn't matter who they are. But peace and love to everybody else. However, at the same time, I think it's five. There's five. You could say seven distinct human races on the planet that are all human, but are very different. We're very different. Not as visually, features, stature. Take your pick. We're very different. It's and it's like obviously Lloyd. He's on the Sumerian bandwagon. He's a student of Sitchin.
Hmm.
However, and I've studied the Sitchin stuff as well. It's like, but I wonder whether it's more than one, mate. Right? Because we're talking about pre-humans and all that sort of stuff. We do need to overlay the fact that this year in Congress in the US, not only have they admitted that alien lives under the ocean, they've admitted that they do exist. They've admitted that UAPs and UFOs exist and have done since forever. What are we talking about here, right? How many species are we coexisting with right now? And I know
Right.
that sounds crazy. Is it though?
Well, it's weird how people aren't caught up on the fact that those hearings even happened. It's like people
Hmm.
didn't care or something, and okay, there's a lot of people in this conspiracy research movement, whatever the hell you want to call it, that just say, "Oh, it's all psyops, all bullshit." But
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm willing
What if
to
1% is true?
right. I'm willing to look at the possibility though, and maybe it isn't because it's not exactly that big of news. Like you would think, they could be doing a soft drip disclosure behind the scenes, and then eventually they'll do a Project Bluebeam kind of thing. I don't know, but just the fact that they are trying to tell us slowly, and I think but they're not talking about our human origins, and I think that's something that I think we've always been with these
Mm.
beings. These beings have
Hmm.
always been here,
Hmm.
and so the Sitchin thing, um, I just recently read the 5th planet or the 12th planet, and
12th planet. Yeah.
not the whole thing. It's huge, but I
Yeah,
read
it's massive.
bits of it,
It's a lot of
right?
work. Yeah.
And there is times where I hear a lot of people talking shit about the guy, and that he's wrong about this and that. And I agree. I don't know where all the things he's telling us come from, but
Mm.
as you really start to read at least the human origins part, I can't argue with any of it because he's taking from multiple texts. He's giving
Mhm.
sources, source material. I've read some of these texts. I know what he's talking about. So
Mhm.
the real reality here is that there we don't genetically exist before a certain time on this planet, and suddenly
Yeah.
we came
Well,
out
they
of nowhere.
said 250,000 the mitochondrial. Is that correct?
Right,
250, I
right,
think
yeah,
it is
250, yeah, the mitochondrial DNA, which for some of you that don't know would be
from
the
the mother.
mother's egg. Now, going all the way back to what they call mitochondrial Eve, which
Mm.
was a study done in the late 80s, and they were,
It's just continued to be confirmed since then as well. Like every
yeah,
time they do the study,
right,
it's the same. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and so even in 2013, there was a study, genome sequencing of 69 people from 3 different populations, and it reported the age of mitochondrial DNA. I'm reading in my notes here,
Mhm.
99 and 148 KYA. So between 120,000 and 156,000 they came up with
Mm.
there. But so they went around the world and basically try to get, and nothing goes back to as far as they want it
Mm.
to solidify Darwin's theory. So this is where there's a big problem. And the second chromosome is the dead giveaway. It separates
Mm.
us from animals. And the second
Mhm.
chromosome, it basically just came out of left field.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you go into all these texts about man being created, and you can't really deny the fact that they're talking about that. So one
Well,
of
they're
the
talking about genetic modification in so many different ways.
in so many ways, yeah, they talk. So if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh,
Mhm.
there's a creature that becomes Gilgamesh's friend. His name was Enkidu, and he was a wild beast, and he eats drinks with the animals and eats with the animals, and he's what is he's lured in by a female who's basically like naked and being erotic, and she lures him in, and as soon as he has sex with her, he's changed. Now, I don't know if that's symbolic of the
Mm.
fact that they might have changed this creature that was like king of the jungle also. This creature was like no one would mess with it. There was a farmer that was scared of it. I don't know if you've read the Epic of
Not in
Gilgamesh.
a while. No, I have
Yeah,
not in a while though.
yeah, yeah.
Because, but I think isn't it from a genetic standpoint? It's got to be the other way around. The male's got to mate. So a male would have had to have mated with the hominid species female in
That's
order to give
true. That's
birth to the
true. Yeah.
hybrid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. But maybe it's symbolic. I don't know, but it's just I
Well, I
found
mean,
that
there's all this weird stuff as well, right? So, I mean, we talk about, I mean, so here we are talking they're genetically modifying humans 250,000 years ago. If you believe the origin story of Indigenous Australia, we're actually pushing that out to 780,000, right? So it's like, but did it happen more than once is another question as well. We
mm-hmm.
Why is it as you and me know, everyone wants us to choose a side. We say we don't want to choose a side. We just want to look at the evidence and what if it's D or the above, as we've said a few times, right? Or, C, something else, both, but not the same,
Yeah.
because there is differences. And what if they were modified? One version of us was modified 250,000 years ago. And I thought about some of the things that we know now when Lloyd was talking about genetic modification. We now can see that some of like the fact that we only live to be 120 max is actually a gene that's been turned off in us,
Right.
right?
And that
They can see
coincides
that
with
now.
right after the flood.
Mm.
Everybody didn't live as long.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
that's also the story as well. Once upon a time, we lived longer than we do now,
Yeah.
and now we don't. So, did these genetic modifications happen more than once? You know what I mean? Did we get
Right.
downgraded? Because the downgraded theory is also very fascinating.
Well, it even talks about that, doesn't it? It talks about humans couldn't reproduce, and
Mm.
then it sounds like they went through a lot of different
Variation.
experiments, and there were
Mhm.
like beasts they made, and like you wonder, if some of these centaurs and some of these
Mythical
weird
creatures.
mythical creatures actually were based on even the Sphinx. You might even go, well, what the hell was that? I mean, I know the face has been modified, but still,
Mm.
what the hell was that? So could these have been real life things that were gene splicing accidents, or just like, oh well, shit, that thing doesn't work very well. Okay, next
Mm.
time we'll know better. And this is a period of a lot of trial and error, and these beings apparently live forever. If you look at the
Mm.
Sumerian kings list, they live really long lives. So
Mm.
if that's to be taken well,
Seriously.
seriously, yeah. So were they doing all kinds of different modifications of humans,
Mm.
and
Mm.
continuing to go, okay, well, this doesn't work. Oh, we don't like this. They're living too long. We got to fix that. And
Mm.
if you
They're
look, I mean,
learning too much. They're living too long.
yep, yep,
We could talk
yep,
about access to magic is an interesting question as well. Understanding elements, understanding these different things and how the energy of the actual universe and the earth works, that seem to be echoes of these civilizations. Like there's so many different things.
right,
I
yep,
mean, and the intertwined snakes that you see in the Sumerian stuff, which today still is a universal symbol for medical assistance. We didn't know that our DNA strand looked like intertwining snakes until the 60s or something like that. I'm pretty sure it is. And that's in every ancient culture, these winding snakes. Right?
right,
You saw the picture they took of a new something. It was like a neutron, and it looks like a yin yang symbol.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
that's
did
right.
you know what I mean? Like, are these echoes? Are these scientific echoes put into stone? That it's like, here's the puzzle. Figure it out.
Yeah,
We once upon a time we got to this level of advancement. Once upon a time we understood this. If you read this and understand this, you will be able to figure it out. If you
hmm,
get to a certain point, and what I realized about even in the last 8 years, one of the things I realized is that the advancements that we see now and the deeper level of understanding, like in that last since I've been doing the show, the population in South America, potential population was 2 million. Now it's over 100 million because of lidar. Right, we're
mm,
talking, all these different scans that we're seeing of the different pyramids, and look, that's for another day. However, that technology has something, and it's allowing us to see something we haven't seen before, right? So
right,
it's only when our technology advances for us so far to be able to see the thing, to be able to understand the thing, to know that it's written in stone, that's existed since time before time.
yeah,
And it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And these are the kings, these are the queens, and I think, it's interesting stuff.
well, there's definitely the we've definitely been modified. I mean, we use 10% of our brains, we use
Mm.
3% of our DNA. People lived way longer. Suddenly they didn't. And if you think
Well,
about
and
life,
the whole
life is
junk
really
DNA
short.
thing,
Yeah.
just before you go, the junk DNA thing, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Microsoft, but it was one of those technology companies figured out that you can store terabytes of data on one single piece of DNA, terabytes.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
not actual junk. It's not junk DNA. It's things that are switched off, mate. We're not
Yeah.
actually operating at our full potential. We haven't been actually turned on properly,
Right.
you know?
Well,
And
the
you
saying,
follow, yeah.
yeah, the saying in one of the tablets is make them smart but not too smart.
Mm,
Strong but not too strong.
yeah.
Um, and life is really short. I mean, when you think about, a lot of people get robbed of their life by slaving away at these jobs, and then they're too
Hmm.
old and worn out to enjoy the rest of their life. I mean, like my kids are just now grown up, my
Mm,
and graduating high school. That's it.
mm.
Like, whoa, what happened there? That just happened so fast. Like, our lives aren't that long, and
No.
I believe people had the ability to remote view everybody and become telepathic and use
Mhm,
what do you call that when you move things? Telekinesis.
mhm.
Like, I think we all have that ability, but we've been shut off from.
We've been turned off, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've been turned off. Yep. So yeah, we've been taken from what could be a lot more. And you know how they say in the Bible a lot, man is fallen from grace. You know, you kind of wonder if that kind of means we were much more than we are now too. You know, they're like, oh, we can't have that. We're gonna have to have them stupid again. Oh, we lost Triffin again. You'll come good in a minute here. Okay, so this is one of the hearts of this discussion is how we don't fit in on this planet. And it's just the fact that we don't. Oh, we lost Triffin. He'll come back in just a little bit, everyone. So we've been turned off. There's been some definite intervention going on here between what we were and what we are now, and they continue to mess with us. Really, if you look at how we're continuing to become. Am I on here? Let's see. I got a comment. Hi guys. Okay, yeah, we're continuing to be dumbed down. So they obviously don't want us to be too much more than we are. And let's see. Louise and Gandalf Green. Hi, guys. Hi, Louise. Welcome to the show. I guess I lost you too. I'm all alone. Well, okay, we'll hopefully get Triffin back here in a minute, guys. Don't know what happened. Sometimes you just got to be patient with this stuff. Weird. Very weird. What is going on here? Are we getting kicked off or is it just some technical things? I'm still live, so I guess everything's good on my end. Really strange though, guys. Hold on one moment. Let me see if I can bring up Triffin again. Triffin? Hello?
Yes, mate.
I'm all alone.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, and now we got okay. It's
I'm
like
back.
it's almost like you got taken off, and so did Louise here in the comments. Hi guys, she says. Hi Louise.
Yeah,
If that's
g'day,
you.
Louise.
Yeah. Thanks for listening
Yeah,
on such a late night. Anyway,
yeah, it just dropped out, man. Just dropped out
weird.
straight away. Like that's the second. It is weird. That's the second time it's just cut me off.
Well, and then it
It's
cut
not
off
giving
all
me any
the
warning.
viewers. Not that there was very many, but there was Louise here and
Mm.
somebody else. So that cut out too. So it was like, what? So I don't know what happened there. Anyway, that'll
Talking
be
about
edited
taboo
out of the.
subjects, mate.
Yeah.
No, the audio won't hear that. But it's
Yeah.
man. Where was I? What was I? I was in the middle of saying something
We were
again.
talking. Let's see, what were we talking about there? Well, I kind of just went off on a little rant for a minute there just to fill in the dead air. But basically, we were talking about how we were all switched off, like and the fact that they continue to kind of want us to be switched off. I mean, what they dumb down us with the food and everything that we
the food, the medicine, the fluoride, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the D or the above. It's look, I mean, that's what I was saying. When we talk about variations in human and potential variations in what's going on, so the Anunnaki created their brand of human as slaves to mine gold, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about this. I don't know whether it was on the mic or not, but it's like I'm not someone who lusts after gold.
We did talk about this on another show. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't care about it. I don't like wearing it. I don't need it around me. But I know people because I worked in gold mining that are obsessed with it. Right? They it's their entire being is that they love working in the gold mines. They do it their whole life. They're after gold. They want gold. And we've all met that bloke as well with the big gold chain and the big gold earring and the big gold, the gold ring and the gold watch and all that. I wonder when we talk about variations, it's whether or not that is the actual variations. And the thing is, I don't know whether it's mindset or separation or something, is uh, people that don't like gold seem to have a different mindset. Now,
Right.
if those other people that have been created, I'm trying to flesh out an idea.
Yeah.
Eloise in the UK,
Yeah.
we got to get over there to go and see the stone circles over there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. The Callanish stone circle. That's good.
Mm,
That's good. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. There's so much to see in the UK. So many ruins.
mm.
Yeah. But yeah. So gold is, and look, we could still be mining the planet for gold from way back then to
Well,
now.
we still
We
are.
still are, but that could be the reason why, and
Where's the gold, mate?
yes, we've talked
Where
about
is it?
this before. Where is it? Fort
Where
Knox is
is it?
supposed to be empty,
Hmm.
right?
Apparently, Australia had sent its gold over to the UK, and no one's put an eye on it, and they don't know how long. There's a
Well,
politician down here trying to find it. It's like, surely, if we've got 5 tons of gold in gold bars, someone goes and has a look every now and again. You know what I mean? But no one knows where the gold is. Where is
yeah,
the gold?
right. Are they still using it? If these beings have as long of lifespans as in the Sumerian tablets, then you know it wouldn't have been that many generations back for them, because like the
No.
8 kings, they ruled for 241,000 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wanted to, because we have put a pin in the Sumerian kings list quite a few
yeah,
times. We want everybody to know that we looked into the Sumerian kings list, and there's not much in it because they dismissed it.
right. And it's not that
Basic.
deep of a dive either.
No. It's basically, you can pull the list up. You can supposedly pull up the ages of the kings and how long they lived for, but past that, there's not much. There's not much there, is there? We did a bit of a dive. Both of us did a bit of a deep dive on that, and there's not much to it. Again, a lot of people have written a lot of words about it, but
Yeah.
what is the actual evidence of the Sumerians kings list prior to the words being written? Right?
Well,
There's not a lot there.
there's been 18 copies found, and no two tablets are exactly alike, but they say they share enough details that it came from an original master list. So we could have something there. But they had very long lifespans, which I did cover in at least the director's cut of the documentary. But it does parallel what the lives in the Bible they're long, and same with Zeb Tepi. But we're kind of getting off on in a little bit of different tangent. I know I can't be too much longer on this particular live stream, but I do
Like I
want to.
told you, it's going to be a part 2, I think, because we have.
This is a two-parter. It is. There's no way we
we
can fit
haven't.
all.
There's no
We have,
way. I've got 4 pages of notes to go about Tiamat and Nibiru and causing cataclysms and jet. Yeah,
okay,
we're
all
not.
right.
Yeah.
So maybe
So
we
that.
should close this out in this. This is one of the hearts of the discussion, and what struck me the most in Lloyd Pye's um, seminar, or his
The
stage documentary. Yeah,
Mm.
is how we don't fit in on this planet. I mean,
Mm.
we've gone over the fact of a lot of different things. The hominids today. We've talked about the high like the hybrid people. We've talked about
Mhm.
being shut off. I don't know. We've talked a lot about and of course Sasquatch, but drop a human in the wild and they just don't fit. Like
No.
humans don't fit. And why would evolution have us lose um our features to be strong like primates? It doesn't make sense. And and we're not integrated in this planet. Like it's everything else knows exactly what it's here for. We
Yeah.
don't have a niche. We're just like
No.
here ruining the planet in some ways,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean,
We
even
go
if
back to the Matrix, don't we? It's a
yeah,
virus.
yeah,
Moves somewhere, destroys
yeah,
everything, and moves on.
yeah,
Disturbing, but true.
it's true. So we don't fit on this planet, and I think we're not physically adapted to this planet. We have live in narrow bands of climate. I mean, we're born naked, so we can't live in the cold regions.
And
We can't
useless. Naked
we
and useless. Yeah.
useless. Yeah, our skin
Mm.
is not tough.
Mm-mm.
We animals don't squint from the sun. That's one of the biggest. I mean, look at that. I mean, why do animals not squint from the sun, but we do?
Mm.
I mean, we can't see in the dark. You know, we're defenseless. I mean, drop a human in the wild without a weapon,
Mm-hmm.
we're toast. We're gone. We're gone.
Especially if you drop a human in the wild where there's still active predators like bears
Yeah.
or lions or something like that.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
animal food after a while, unless you
Right.
know what you're doing. And but even then, if you don't find food and water within the first 48 hours, you're done
Yeah.
basically. Your
Yep.
food, water, shelter for you got about 2 or 3 days, depending on where you are, and
Mhm.
it's like it's fascinating. But then I wonder, we come back to the different races of humans because I worked a lot with the Papua New Guineans, right? My tumbles and
Okay.
my wontoks up there, beautiful, beautiful people, however, very adapted to their environment as well. Like,
Oh, because they're pretty tribal, at least
yes,
parts of it.
very,
It's really
yeah, and
wild over
they
there.
absolutely they are.
Yeah.
Well, there's still uncontacted tribes out there, so they're
Right.
very adapted to their environment. So it's like there is a brand of human that exists that is not adapted to the environment. So that's where I wonder, and maybe we sort of end it with a couple because we're going to start talking about different variations, and maybe we come back because we're going to do this at part one. Maybe we have a bit more of a think about this and come back to this because it's like there is different versions of human on this planet that do seem more adapted to the planet than we do. Now, whether that's a circumstance thing and morphic resonance carries them through multiple generations,
Hmm.
or whether that's something entirely different again, because I just wonder, man. I wonder, and it's
I think we talked a little bit about that on our road trip when I was down under. What I've always wondered is, okay, was the primitive species Sasquatch or some kind of
Australopithecus. Yeah.
hominid,
Mhm.
or was it just indigenous man that how like some of these tribes they don't ever change, like they don't care to join civilization, like
Mhm.
was it just a more primitive version of man that didn't want civilization that they adapted? I don't know, but I don't think so. But I just wonder, like there are tribes that like the Kalahari Bushmen in
Mhm.
Africa or the Aboriginal tribes. They're some of the
Yeah, the
oldest.
indigenous Australians, absolutely. Yep, they
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
fall into that category.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So,
Mm.
um, do they did why are they the way they are, and are those or were they humans that escaped the gold mines and just
It's an
lived on
interesting
their own?
question.
You
It's an
know?
interesting question, or have we been modified by more than one external factor? That's my wonder. I wonder whether that is true,
Yeah, and
and
that
how many and potentially how many times has that happened?
right. I know Billy Carson talks, some people hate him, some people love him. I take from people what I like and what I don't, I leave
Yeah,
what I don't, right?
I
Yeah,
respect Billy, but he's
yeah,
an interesting cat for sure.
sure. He thinks that there were, alien beings of each race.
Hmm.
Then, and he's a he's a black guy and he's okay with saying that. It's like,
Hmm.
and he doesn't think that his ancestors' skin would have mutate um you know uh be well, what did he say, like everybody's got change because of their pigmentation because of their closeness
Hmm.
or distance from the sun, and there's just no way. I don't really
Well,
buy that,
yeah, I mean, the known theory is that you know we're all black, but the freckles on a white fella is the black fella trying to escape. You know what I mean? Like that's basically what we're saying.
right.
And the reason that we're white is that we marched north into Europe and hung around in caves for too long. That's in a nutshell what they reckon is the truth, right? But
But
I don't buy that either. I don't
no.
because the thing is, again, absolute love and respect to my wontoks in Papua New Guinea, but they are built different. They're nuggety. You know what I mean? They're built different. That
Yeah,
we are not. I'm not built the same as them. They're not built. You know what I mean? They are. They've evolved in that environment and they're built different to that environment.
that's
Same
right.
with indigenous Australians, very long of stature, very, you know what I mean? They're a different human. Yes, they are human, but they're a different human.
Well,
There's nothing
yesterday,
wrong with saying that. You know what I mean? Like, as I say, peace and love, team human all the way, and we're all
oh,
human.
absolutely, and we should be
You
getting
know,
over race by now in
absolutely.
2025. You know,
It's ridiculous to the fact that we have to even begin to try and make those sort of disclaimers. I find distasteful
me too.
because
Yeah,
we're all brothers and sisters on the same big blue ball hurtling through space, and that's the only thing. And the only way we're going to figure it out is together. And
exactly. Yeah,
that's it. There's nothing else. However, we need to understand that the variations with which we exist may have come from something else
exactly. Because
for various reasons.
it's not just skin color; it's facial features
Mm-hmm.
entirely different. So
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, I didn't talk to you about this because, well, we haven't had a lot of time to talk off air, but I'll just say it on air. I was on the Big Island yesterday doing a field research for the the sequel of the documentary. Got some good stuff to share. Not going to tell you guys out there about it yet, but
Down Under's continuing to reveal itself as well, but mum's the
right,
word there as well.
yeah,
Mm.
mom's the word. But so we had some drama go on. A friend of mine came there. He's part Hawaiian, a little bit Hawaiian,
Mm-hmm.
and he had gotten a misunderstanding with this other lady, and it was a big drama that didn't need to happen. So then this guy who said he's the landowner, which it was public land, but his family goes way back. It's a famous name out here. He's about 50% Hawaiian, and just how he's built, just he's Polynesian. He's just built like a bull. The guy is just big,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, whoa, this guy's he wanted his presence known. He came on a quad and ATV. He did a big circle and came back around us, and he's like, he wanted to let us know that it's not okay what happened with this confrontation, and he ended up being cool. But my point in saying this story is he was built way different than maybe a white person or an Asian person.
Mm-hmm.
He just built
They're
like,
built different. Yeah, Polynesians are built different. They're ginormous people. Like
yeah,
they're huge, man. They're just
huge.
big
We've
boys.
talked about that before on this show.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
look, my Polynesian brothers and sisters. I've known a lot of them and call a lot of them brother. Don't you worry about that. But they are giant dudes. We're roughly the same height, 5'11", 6 foot. Somewhere in there. And these guys are 6'5" and 3 times as wide as us. Like it's
Mhm.
not.
Yeah,
What are we talking about here?
yeah,
It's there's nothing wrong to say that whilst we're all human, there's definite physicality changes, and where do those changes actually stem from is a very interesting question.
right.
And
Yeah, take a Chinese man
hmm,
and take a Tutsi tribe from Africa man
mhm.
and set them side by side, totally
yeah,
different.
without
Not,
knowledge, if you said, "Are they the same being?"
yeah,
someone would say no, not
of
because of
course.
any negative thing, but just they do not look the same.
Right,
There's nothing. What are the true origins of our story? I suppose is the question that we're asking.
right. We're asking some of the most important questions really in the world, and we shouldn't have to walk on eggshells because
No.
we're asking the questions who we are, where we came from, and why we're here. You know?
And I think we probably underestimate our listeners as well, mate. I don't think
Yeah,
they know. They
they
know.
know.
They
They know.
understand. We don't mean any offense to anybody because
No, not at all.
we have peace and love to everybody. Like I said, we're all brothers and sisters on the same big blue ball hurtling through space. But I think, look, maybe we leave it there, mate. I know you've got to get. It's late where you are, and
Yeah,
let's explore that idea a little bit more for part two. I think
definitely.
let's.
And yeah, I think let's just leave it off at just the fact that we do not fit on this planet.
No.
We're not adapted to this planet. We our skin burns from the sun. We can't see in the dark. I mean, there's so much anomalies. The human genome has like 4,000 some defects. Like,
Mhm.
if we were made in God's image, then why are we so messed up? Like, why do our backs go bad? Why do we get diabetes? Why do we get our eyesight go bad? And there's
Mm.
just tons of questions that look, and we just don't. And then the fact that we came out of nowhere, the fact that
Mm.
civilization came out of nowhere, and I think we'll just really flesh this out some more on part two.
Mm.
Yeah,
Always good, mate. Always
yeah,
good. Thank you very much. Thanks, Louise. Thanks to everyone who
yeah.
stopped
Thanks,
in and
Luis.
said g'day. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. It was a bit of a random live stream, so
Yeah.
keep an eye out for the episode in the near future. And yeah, look, I would like to flesh out some of these ideas and think about it. I'd like to listen back to this and then flesh out a little bit for part 2. So let's do that, man. And,
We're gonna do that. Yep, lots more coming from you and I, and lots more coming in the sacred site department. Louise, I think the only person listening. Hopefully, you've seen Sacred Site, and if not, go to on Rumble. You can see at least the theatrical version, and things are going good. We're doing some good stuff. We're on some good.
We're moving quietly,
Yeah.
However, not silently.
No. Well, brother, thanks for again.
No, thank you. I really enjoy it. It is a collaboration as well. I like that. The UTC Chant It Down collaboration. You know what? Actually, what I'm going to do, I'll talk to you off more. I'm going to get a logo made up for us to join the two things together.
Yeah. We could put that on the website. Yeah. So yeah, this would be the 9th one, I believe. I'll look again on the website, but yeah. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Louise. Yes, I have. It's really good. I'm glad you've seen Sacred Side. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. That's excellent. It was a labor of love for both of us from the countless hours behind the scenes. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a docu-series. It's going to continue. So I got a cat bothering me right now. Curious on what I'm doing. Okay, well, anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in, and this is just part 1, and we're just getting our bearing straight on this. This is a huge topic. So.
It's a huge topic. Look, the thing is, if it needs to go to a part 3, we can do that. I think we listen back to this one, gather ourselves, do part 2. I think that's a good plan.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll end this stream and catch you later.
Until next time. Thanks, guys.
Until next time. Thank you.